I feel like if this is just going to be the role that Dominik and JD play within Judgment Day, that they're just kind of the fall guys, like they're the ones who always lose, then I'm fine with that. If that were their role, the problem is that they do it with the entire group minus Rhea. So it's like, even though we know that they retained the tag team titles later in the show, they didn't look strong necessarily in that match. So it's like, if they were going to just decide, okay, well, if we're going to put these guys in a match, they're going to be the ones that lose. Whatever. That's just what it is, because sometimes that's just the role that guys have. That's fine. But then I need to see Finn and Damian win some matches a lot more, because you can't be having an entire group that claims to run the entire show of Raw. Like, they keep
lose
losing. Like,
half the time.
what do you run exactly? Yeah, you run catering? Is that what you run? Like, what are we doing?
It's backwards thinking now that the babyface always needs to win on TV and then, build them up for a loss. The heels can get a win and they can go over looking strong. That's why they're heels. They should be strong. And, I don't think, to be honest, that Dom and JD should have won that match specifically. But I see your point, and there's other aspects during the show and, SmackDown even, like, that there just doesn't need to be a predictable win that the face needs to win or the heel needs to win, with help or whatnot.
Yeah.
It's a different era now where the reason you do that is because you don't want fans to lose interest. So you got to make them look strong. But, like, they're not going to lose interest if they lose 2 weeks in a row. Like, if DIY was to go on a little bit of a skid, you're not going to lose fandom over them for 2 weeks.
Well, and how credible are your heels if all they do
There
is
you go.
lose? Like, how are they supposed to be feared if, like, oh, it's fine because they're always going to lose, And that's the thing with JD and Dominik specifically. Like, they're both really good in the ring. So it's not like they're going out there to be the joke, to lose and whatever. They're not a joke. They're not a comedic act. They're legitimate in the ring. So it's not that. But for some reason, they just end up being the guys that always lose, or if they win, it always has to do with outside interference or using a weapon or something. It's almost never like they were fine and they just won and people are mad about it. It's like, why are you scared of having people be mad? Like, that's the one aspect I think that, to a certain extent, we need to see Triple H adopt that mentality a bit more of like a Vince McMahon, where Vince didn't give a shit. Vince was like, I'm going to do what I think is best for business. We don't agree with it. And sometimes our anger is completely valid. But when it comes to Triple H, I'm like, Triple H, you had some of the most iconic heel runs in the company and people hated your guts.
Oh
And
my
why
God.
are you then afraid to do the same thing with other people now that you're running the company? Like, that's confusing to me.